Oh my god, Ben's back after 3 months of being locked in a cave, apparently. Oh my god. I need a haircut, dude. But that's not what this video is about. Recently, ESPN released their top 100 NBA players going into the 23-24 NBA season. And it's a pretty universally respected list. Nobody really ever has any problems with it. But I'm going to go and I'm going to see if I can find any problems in it. I don't have anything to plug except the TikTok. On a Quote Pod on TikTok and on Spotify. New podcast episode dropping soon. But without further ado, let's just get right into it, man. So before we start looking at this list, it's important to do for any list. You look at the criteria for what they're picking on, right? And this list is something I've seen a lot of people misunderstand. This isn't a ranking of what happened last year. It's a prediction for what's going to happen in 23-24. Right? So it doesn't matter what happened last year or the year before. This is how the ESPN writers think the league is going to look at the end of this season. Right? Another thing is they're doing it new this year. They've done 13 of these, which that's a video idea I got saved in the bank, man. When I'm running out of stuff to do, you'll know because I'm going back and looking at old ESPN top 100 lists. But they basically asked them to say who's better between this player and this player, and they did that like a gajillion times, and the consensus rankings based off those choices are what we see on this list. I don't know if that made any sense, but the description is right on the screen for you to read if I'm terrible at explaining it. There are a lot of guys who I'm interested to see where they land on this list. Rookies, obviously, Wembanyama, where's he going to be? Scoot Henderson, Brandon Miller, guys like that. Just what ESPN thinks of them going into the season is going to be really interesting. And then guys like Zion, right, where you don't have a huge sample size of them. Cade Cunningham too, but when they're on the court, they are like very good, very plus players for their team. I'm just going to be skipping through to the ones I find most interesting, and this was the first one that really stuck out to me. This hurts my soul so hard. Russell Westbrook was the player who made me love basketball. 2016 was when I really started getting into it, and obviously Russ is on top of the world, and to see him at number 94 hurts. I do think he should be higher than this. I think he's got more left in the tank. Bias? Maybe. I could understand it. But I do think he is a very solid player who should be ranked, at least above Mike Conley, I know is 93. He's better than Emmanuel Quickley, Josh Hart, John Collins. Like, what are we talking about here, ESPN? But I do think he is kind of a tier above these guys, at least. I had to put the hat on to keep the hair out of my face, but I do look like I could kill somebody at any moment. Blue light glass is not really helping at all, but I look like your average Law and Order serial killer right now, not gonna lie. But the Bullets hat is fitting for number 86, Kyle Kuzma. Now, I haven't looked at this list, right, but I did have the two Wizards here, Poole and Kuzma, spoiled for me. And I'm actually way higher on Kuzma than 86 this year, right? Bradley Beal last season for the Wizards was not a net positive, and that's kind of crazy to say. I understand. I sound a little wild here, but if you were watching Wizards games, he was kind of stunting the development of a lot of other guys and not a guy that really fit with what the team was trying to do, right? And that hurt Kyle Kuzma more than anyone, really. Denny Avdia, too, but completely different story. I think we could really see a Kuz breakout season this year. I'm so serious. I wouldn't be surprised if he grabs 10 boards, gives me 5 assists, 22 points. Like, that's not out of the realm of possibility in my head. And if that happens, absolutely above an 86. Plus, teaming up with Poole, who's going to be a much better fit in Washington. I see Kyle Kuzma having a breakthrough season. Maybe an all-star game pick? We'll see. Number 85 on this list confuses me too, and I promise I'm not going to be stopping this much throughout the whole video, but this one really confused me. Anthony Simons, it even says it in the article, right? Last year, without Damian Lillard, 27.9 points and 5.7 assists per game. This is going to be one of the best young backcourt duos in the league. Over there in Portland with Scoot Henderson and Anthony Simons. Those two are going to be the primary bucket getters for your team, right? They just got DeAndre Ayton, and I think that's only going to boost their not only playmaking but pick and roll scoring potential. I see a huge leap for Anthony Simons this year, and 86 feels a little disrespectful, but I kind of understand it. I kind of see like wanting to prove it in more than just 11 games last year. Number 78, we have the first rookie, maybe one of only two, because Scoot Anderson to me is the number two rookie in this draft class. If something happens to Victor Wembanyama, he misses like 30 games, it could be Scoot's Rookie of the Year award to lose, right? I absolutely love this guy coming out of the G League Ignite. You're seeing maybe the Russ bias again, because he does play a little bit like him, where the jumper's not fully there, but oh my god, can he get to the basket? Oh my god, is he explosive? But I do really love this guy, 78. I mean, I'm not going to rip ESPN for putting a rookie a little too low in my opinion, because this guy has not played an NBA game yet, right? So there's no telling what he's going to do, but if he lives up to what I think he can be, I mean, we're probably looking at like top 60 personally. Here's another guy I was looking out for, Cade Cunningham at 74. Seems a little low. I get he's coming off a huge injury. He only played 12 games last year. But I mean, he's going into his third season, still super talented. If he can recover like young guys often do, I'm not going to say all young guys recover from injuries perfectly, but it's easier to recover when you're younger. And if he can get back to that pace he was playing at in his rookie year and in those 12 games we saw last year, I think he's going to be way higher than 74. I'll keep this one quick, I promise. Number 72, Jordan Poole. I am so much higher on him than this. Oh my god. We see him coming out of Golden State where he was nowhere near the focal point of that offense. And no one other than Steph Curry is ever going to be a focal point on the offense when Steph Curry is on the roster. But we're going to get to see him do his own thing, create for himself. Are we going to see a lot of inefficient shooting nights? Oh my god, yeah. But are those inefficient shooting nights going to put points up on the board? Absolutely. I see him averaging 20 plus this year pretty easily. It's him and Kuz's offense to run, and I think he's going to explode in a bigger role than he had over in Golden State. Austin Reeves at 66 is wild above some of the other guys we've looked at on this list. I get it. I understand the hype. He's a white boy. He's got swag. He plays in Los Angeles. But, I mean, what has he done in the NBA? I get he got a pretty good run on Team USA, but that team didn't even medal. There was no bronze, gold, or silver in his cabinet on a team where he was relatively important, especially considering his role on the Lakers. I just don't see him producing at a number 66 level, especially with LeBron and Anthony Davis still on his team. He's going to be the third option at best. I don't think he's going to be able to get the production out of being a third option that would warrant him being put at number 66. Here's another guy I was looking for, Zion Williamson at 57. This is kind of crazy to me. I get if you're projecting injury, like if he only plays like 30 games, he'll end up at 57, sure. But I've never been comfortable with projecting injury because you just have no idea what's going to happen, right? And when Zion is fully healthy and playing, which is, I think, how we should be judging him, I don't know if there's 20 players better. I don't know if there's 15 players better, especially on that offensive end. Who's stopping Zion? Embiid, Giannis, that might be the whole list. AD maybe, but there's an argument for him fully healthy to be better than AD on the defensive end. On the offensive end. If he can put in a little more effort and show a little more commitment on the defensive side, he could be top 10 in 2 years. Let's talk about DeAndre Ayton. Okay, I'm firmly in the camp that I think all he needs is a change of scenery. Firstly, for whatever reason, he was not a fan of Phoenix. I'm not going to pretend to be able to see inside his mind, right? I can't do that. But I think the change of scenery, getting him into kind of a new job. You ever get into a new job and you're like, man, I'm loving this job. I get to do stuff I love. It pays well, all that, and you just feel motivated. You know, I think that's what DeAndre Ayton's going to feel in Portland. He's got younger guards now that he can kind of work out even more growing pains with, right? When he went to Phoenix, he was in the finals in 3 years, right? That's not a lot of time between being the first overall pick and being a contender, right? So he didn't have a lot of time, or as much time as a lot of these younger guys do, to work out the kinks in his game, right? I think he's going to be able to struggle. He's going to be able to fail in this Portland offense and in this Portland environment, and that is going to do wonders for his play. I think he'll end the season certainly higher than 49. Here he is, the man himself, Victor Wembanyama. Now, me personally, before I saw him, I was watching some of his stuff in like the Metropolitan, what is it, like 92, 96? I don't know. And I was like, yeah, this is cool and all, but I don't know if he can do it against NBA competition, you know? There's a reason we've never seen somebody do this in the NBA, and that's because it's nearly impossible to do. I don't know how well his game's going to translate. And then I've been watching the preseason recently. And I don't know if you've been watching the preseason, but Victor Wembanyama can do whatever he wants, really whenever he wants. It's kind of ridiculous. We have not seen a player like him in the NBA ever. People really thought he is like what people thought Bol was going to be coming out of Oregon, but actually he's going to live up to the hype. Like just just the stupidest thing you've ever seen on a basketball court is Victor Wembanyama. 47 is fine. I could see him finishing higher and I could see him finishing lower, but again, he's never set foot on an NBA court, so I'm not gonna readjust him too much. Here's another player I really like sitting at 45. Julius Randle is kind of underrated to me. He obviously won the most improved player in, what was it, 21, brought the Knicks kind of back to relevance, and Knicks fans still hate him for it. I don't think they really deserve him, but he's a fantastic basketball player. He gets hated on a lot because he's in the bright lights of New York, and he can struggle sometimes. He can make some stupid decisions sometimes, but overall, he's a very good basketball player. 45 seems valid to me. I could see him top 40 as well. But that's just how high I am on him. We'll see Jaylen Brunson here shortly, I'm sure, because we haven't seen him yet, obviously, and he is slightly better than Randall. But I do think Julius Randle is severely underrated by the NBA community as a whole. I saw this. I saw James Harden at number 43, and I audibly went, "Wow, this is shocking to me." Harden put up a really great year last year. I think deserving of much more than 43. But again, we're projecting him going into 23, 24, and that's just not. His future's up in the air. We don't know if he's going to play for Philly. He hates Daryl Morey so much. He's made that very clear. But he absolutely has very good basketball left in him. Personally, I wouldn't have him lower than 30. We saw him come into Philly and take kind of more of a playmaker role and excel in it. I want to say he led the league in assists last year, or at least assists per game. I think you are knocking him a little too much for the aging curve. I know it's not on his side, and knocking him a bit much for the controversy, but we've seen James Harden still be able to play very high level basketball, and 43 to me is way too low. Just an aside to make another point on James Harden, Tyrese Maxey is at 42. Who are we talking about here? We're talking about James Harden versus Tyrese Maxey. Be serious, please. I saw Darius Garland at 36, and I was like, oh yeah, definitely going to be a big fifth season jump from Darius Garland. And then I scrolled down, he's 23. Huh? That's insane to me. I had no idea, but I mean, this Cavs team was super hyped last year. They got Donovan Mitchell. I think with an extra year under their belt of playoff experience and experience playing together, they could really take a big jump. And I think if Darius Garland takes the big jump, like they're predicting right here, that's going to be a huge part of that. Paolo Banchero at 32 is a massive jump. You came up 52 spots, and honestly, I don't hate this pick. We have seen some guys go through sophomore slumps, but I don't think Paolo is going to be one of those guys. His playstyle is very sustainable. Put up 20 points per game last year. I really liked a lot of the things he was doing on the court, and they added Anthony Black this year, who I think that's a really good fit for him in this Magic offense. I loved Anthony Black coming out of Arkansas. I wanted my Wizards to take him, but they didn't. We ended up with Bilal Coulibaly, who looks great in preseason, by the way. Don't sleep. But I do love the Paolo Banchero pick at 30. Lauri Markkanen at 28 is great. I do love that, but I do think he is due for a little bit of regression. Let me explain. So that production that he was putting up is frankly just unsustainable, right? He didn't even dude, he's gonna suck. He didn't even get to practice in the offseason. He was serving in the military. Dude, has he even touched a basketball? Stupid. Let me stop. But Jazz took Keontae George in the draft, who I think is going to take some touches away from him. He is a fantastic scorer, Keontae George. I loved him coming out of Baylor, and I'm going to love him in this Jazz offense. But I just don't think Lauri Markkanen's production from last year is sustainable. I'll be honest. I was ready to get on here and be like, man, Kawhi at 24, he's always hurt, bro. He's always hurt. How much has he even played these last couple of seasons? Obviously, he missed 21, 22 because of the ACL. But then I looked at it, and he's only really missing like 20 games a season, like at most. And he's putting up the most points per game in his entire career in LA. He's obviously still playing the amazing defense, and he's playing roughly the same amount of games as LeBron James. Now, I'll admit, a little bit of bias here, a little bit of bias, because we got the Kawhi jersey. Not putting it on because it's way too small, and I'm a big motherfucker. But I mean, Kawhi should be higher, in my opinion. He's not as injured as people think he is. He's still scoring at an elite level, and he's still playing really, really great perimeter defense, which, as the NBA evolves into this more perimeter-heavy era, is super valuable to every single team in the NBA. Jaylen Brown at 19 is a bit too high for my taste, personally. We saw him really struggle in the Eastern Conference Finals last year when he was forced to kind of create for himself a lot more, and a lot more of the scoring load was pushed onto him. Obviously, could not use his left hand. Have you guys seen the Twitter video the Celtics posted? Let me pull it up. I already have it up because I know what I'm doing. But look at this. Dribbling normal, and then to the left, he loses it. The official Celtics account posted this on, I think, Instagram. That's so funny. Like, what were they thinking? But, I mean, still, Jaylen Brown, plus defender for sure, a pretty good scorer, but I just don't think he is at the level of scoring and offense and defense all put together of being a top 20 player. Top 30? Sure. You're not going to hear any argument from me. But 19 is, in my opinion, way too high. People on Twitter were very angry that Jamal Murray was number 17, and I can't, for the life of me, really understand why. He was the second option coming off of a championship. He won the championship as a second option, and he put up massive stats coming off the. He had a bad injury. I don't off the dome. Remember what it was, but he, I think, proved all the doubters wrong. Obviously, went crazy in that bubble. And, I mean, even the article here says the bubble Murray was not a fluke. And, I mean, he showed it. He was a great playmaker. He was a great scorer. He just gets outshined by Jokic very often because it's hard not to be outshined by Jokic because he's one of the two best players in the league. But, I mean, Jamal Murray at 17 is extremely reasonable. I couldn't really see anyone getting super mad at that. Number 15 here's Donovan Mitchell, and I really like this pick too. I do love this. He's such an explosive scorer. He can really do it from anywhere. He's got a very underrated perimeter shot, lethal from the mid-range, and obviously drives to the basket super well. Put up 71 last year in the most overshadowed 70-plus point game of all time because DeMar Hamlin died on the field as it was happening. Again, a little bias here because this came in the mail at like actual minutes after he was traded. I got the notification off Twitter, and I checked my phone, and I was like, oh my god, Donovan Mitchell got traded. And then I heard a knock on the door, and it was the Donovan Mitchell jersey, which, hey, sometimes you're the bug, sometimes you're the windshield. But Donovan Mitchell's an extremely explosive scorer. The defense is like fine. He's not going to be a liability, but he's not going to lock down your best player either. And number 15, especially if the Cavs take the jump that I'm talking about them taking, absolutely 15, maybe even top 10, low-key. Whoa, Anthony Edwards at 13 is super high. I don't think I understand him being 13. 20 maybe? 25 maybe? But, I mean, this is above guys like Dame, guys like Donovan Mitchell, guys like, Bam Adebayo, I see, yeah. But I don't see him. I love Anthony Edwards. Don't get me wrong, but I don't see him becoming that scorer that he really wants to be with Karl Anthony Towns still there, with Rudy Gobert still there, clogging up the paint. I mean, Rudy Gobert cannot move out of the paint. Like, if he's on the perimeter, you can pretty much leave him be because he is not shooting that thing, okay? So I think that creates a lot of difficulty for him driving to the basket and scoring, which is where a lot of his most efficient points and most reliable points come from. Certainly has a great jumper too. I'm not saying that he doesn't, but that's his most efficient area and his best area. I don't think I necessarily like him all the way up here, but I do like him top 20. I need to start getting more mad, man. I need to get angrier. That's what sells, man. I'm too like, yeah, this is, I don't like it personally, but this is reasonable. I need to start yelling and screaming, waking up my parents, man. Number 8, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I never thought I'd see the day. When he was buried on those Clippers lineups, I genuinely did not think I'd ever see the day, but here we are, and I don't like seeing the day. I don't think he's going to finish as a top 8 player in the league. Above, might I add, LeBron James at 9 and Anthony Davis at 10. And Devin Booker, too, at 11. I don't think he's going to finish better than any of those guys. This isn't me hating. I do genuinely love Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I pinky swear, I pinky promise you. But I think we are getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here. I'd like to see him put up that kind of superstar caliber season one more time before we're putting him in these kinds of conversations. Let me run through 7 through 5 like really quick all at once. Kevin Durant I would put at 5 above Tatum for sure. Tatum is probably the better defender, but KD is the better scorer, and KD's ability to just score well, like whenever he wants, puts him over the edge of Tatum for me. And I'd probably put him above Curry too, but I don't think, like, the gaps that separate these players are like this. We're picking hairs with this. Is that the phrase? I have no idea. Or we're nitpicking with this, I guess. But I mean, they're all in the same tier to me, kind of that tier 3 of players in the NBA. Number 3 is Joel Embiid, and I can confidently say I'd put Luka above him. I get Embiid's the reigning NBA MVP, but Luka's just had to carry such an offensive load for this Mavericks team for so long, and he's done it so well. I just think they're in the same tier, again, like I'm saying, but I do think Luka is the more talented and the more unstoppable offensive force. Jokic, I would put at 1, and Giannis at 2, just because Jokic is coming off the championship, right? One of the best playoff runs we've seen in a minute, quite honestly. This man just does not have bad playoff games, really, much less series. And, I mean, just the stuff he's able to do passing-wise, creating for his team. Nobody else is doing that in the NBA. But speaking of things nobody else is doing in the NBA, it's Giannis Antetokounmpo. You're like, oh yeah, Jokic for sure is 1, and then you go watch 10 minutes of Giannis playing basketball, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, no, I get it, because he just, like, nobody can stop him on offense. Twitter's gonna be on me because it's like, oh man, he doesn't even have a bag. He's just running into the paint. Then why can nobody stop him? Like, why try to do all this when you can just run into the paint and dunk on everyone's head, right? Defensively, he's swatting balls into bleachers. You're not going to get through him because look at him. He's 300 pounds of muscle, like 6'11". But yeah, personally, I'd go Jokic over Giannis just because of what happened last year and how that projects into this year. But I think those two are the top tier of NBA superstars. Oh my God, you said it to the end. Thank you so much. I really mean that. That came off as really insincere, but I do mean that. It does mean a lot. We're done. We went through the whole top 100. I didn't go through every single guy because nobody wants to watch me for an hour. I go like, yeah, I could see that for like Mitchell Robinson at 100, which I did like, by the way. What am I plugging? I'm plugging the Twitter at 7footpointguard and at OwnACordPod. The YouTube, obviously. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe because I do a lot of NBA stuff on here, and you're getting football and baseball from my co-host Tyler over there. Speaking of co-host, TikTok, OwnACordPod as well, and on Spotify we have a podcast. A lot of football talk right now, but when basketball season comes up, we're going to be talking a lot of ball. And if you want to hear more from me, you liked my picks, tell me in the comments. If you didn't, don't tell me, please. I'll cry. But yeah, that does it for me. Thank you, and I'm gonna catch you.